clean and prep. You need to clean the concrete well and allow it to dry. When staining concrete, cleaning and preparing the concrete is one of the most important steps of all. If the concrete hasn't been adequately cleaned and prepared, then inferior results can and usually will ensue. Looking at concrete under a microscope, you see that it looks much like a sponge. Though it appears to be smooth on the surface and to the naked eye, it is actually very porous, just like a sponge is. The need to clean the surface is obvious and fairly easy, but it's what stays trapped in the pores of the concrete that will work against you. This is the piece of the puzzle that makes the difference. We recommend that if your concrete is already clean, and even if it's not, then to do an overall scrub using water mixed with trisodium phosphate, or TSP for short. TSP is really just a strong detergent, and it's really good for cleaning concrete. After you have scrubbed it with the TSP, you need to rinse it really well with 2 or 3 clean water rinsings to make sure that you get it up. But first, before you do your final clean, ensure that the concrete is free from any and all contaminants. Make sure there's no curing agents or waxes or paint or glue or oil or grease or anything like that. If there is, make sure you spot scrub or strip that area and get that cleaned up. Then do your TSP clean for your final clean down with a couple clean water rinsings.
If there's any oil, petroleum, or grease on your concrete, use Concrete Camouflage's Concrete Stain Prep Degreaser for the best results.
Whenever you do clean and prep, it's important to not use acids or any kind of a concrete etching product to clean it with. You can use citric cleaners, you can use paint thinners, you can use various kinds of strippers and other types of cleaners, but do not use anything that has a heavy alkali, and do not use acids or concrete etching products. They'll only work against you, and they'll keep the stain from taking if it's a standard grade, and it'll make even an artist grade stain not become as rich and as deep as you otherwise could have got of a color.
If you end up pulling up linoleum or some glue down carpet, you can later use a heavy duty glue remover to get rid of the glue, but then you'll still have to lightly sand it a little bit. Maybe you can use a floor sander, or you can rent a buffing machine and put a sanding disc on it.
Don't be afraid to lightly sand the floor if that's what you need to do. And talking about floor buffing machines, if you get the floor buffing machine with the scrubbing pad on there, then that really works well, especially if you have a large area.
When it comes to buffing your floor, there's 2 ways that you can do it. If you have a really tight concrete pad, then you can use a black buffer pad. The black buffer pad is aggressive. It opens up the pores and allows the stain to get in there and do its job. But if your concrete pad isn't really that tight, you can use a red buffer pad because it's really good at scrubbing and cleaning.
Once you've cleaned the floor, if you need to make any patch repairs, you can do that at this time. We do recommend that you do not patch hairline cracks or very small cracks or very small imperfections. They'll actually add character to the floor in the end.
Don't use a new cotton mop when you're staining your floors. But if you have no other choice, make sure you rinse it a few times first to get rid of the fuzzies.
If you're going to use a brand new mop, I would highly recommend that you use a synthetic mop. Of course, a mop bucket is recommended. Whenever you are mopping the floor, you can use a wet dry vac if you choose to pick up the water, but make sure that you have a good mop and a good mop bucket. You can use strippers for paints. You can use paint removers, citric strippers, even heavy duty glue removers and the such for removing paints. You can use a mastic remover or a heavy duty glue remover or a citrus stripper for other types of stickies like glues. You can also use the strippers for curing agents and waxes. If you have a wax on the floor, you can use a commercial wax remover or a commercial wax stripper. You can use a power washer or a water hose whenever you're doing a project outside, especially. Just be careful of splashing. The thing about a power washer outside is a lot of times it'll deep clean into the pores and you won't really even have to use the TSP. TSP is good for deep cleaning in the pores, and so don't be afraid to use it even if you're outside, but you certainly can use a power washer or a water hose. Whenever you pour water onto the concrete, if it beads up or if it doesn't readily soak into the concrete, if it just sits there, then the stain's not going to be able to soak in either. So whenever you are doing your clean and prep, be sure and keep an eye out, is the water readily soaking into the concrete? Because if it absorbs right in, then the stain should also be okay. An important tip is to make sure that you have an entry and an exit point with a means to clean off or remove your shoes. This is a twofold tip. It's not only to keep you from tracking dirt in on the floor, it's also, once you start staining the concrete, to make sure that you don't track stain or residue back out onto areas where you don't want it, such as your sidewalk or carpet in another room. Alternatively, you could also use disposable shoe covers, and you could pull them off each time you go in and out of the room. You need to tape and cover with plastic all of the surroundings where stain might possibly get. That would be your baseboards up about 2 foot high up on the wall, cabinets, doors, that sort of thing. It's not really because of staining it, because when you stain it, you could hold a piece of cardboard or you could hold, a painter shield or something like that to keep the stain from getting on the walls. And that's all fine and well. But whenever you come back and you mop it, that mop is going to sling that residue water. And if you sling that residue water onto the wall, the residue will still have the capacity to stain. And that's where you'll get the mess on the baseboard. That's where you'll get the mess on the walls. Also, you need to try to protect any kind of vegetation if you're staining outdoors. Acid stain, whenever it gets on vegetation or grass, it'll cause it to die back. Fortunately, it won't permanently kill it. It will come back, but it'll definitely brown out for a while. If you are going to use tape and plastic, I recommend that you use the kind that can be bought on a roll with the tape already attached to the plastic. The plastic will be folded down, so you've got this roll that's about 4 inches tall with the tape already attached to the bottom. And you go along and you put this tape on the bottom of your baseboard or your doors or your cabinets. And then after you've attached it, you can pull this plastic up and the plastic will unfold and extend about 2 foot high up on the wall. That makes it really quick and really easy. And that concludes the clean and prep